Greetings, members, one and all of the Salivation Nation. Silver and gold. Fear sells, but who's buying? Let's explore. You know, 2020 has been a pretty scary year so far. There's been a lot of strife. There's been a virus, pandemic that has shocked the world. And as of the recording of this video, there is civil unrest around really the whole world right now. And our economic system is certainly threatened. We've got record debt, record deficit spending, and there's a lot of uncertainty. Unemployment is high, and we don't know what the future holds in terms of pretty much most aspects of life. And, you know, when you have so much uncertainty, we tend to try to gravitate towards normalcy. Most of us want it. Psychologically, we want to get back to normal. You know, we certainly are creatures of habit in many cases. And I think for those of us even that are want to be prepared or seek to be moving in the direction of trying to find ways, contingency plans, preparedness, which is certainly is paramount in this community. You know, there's many different things that we all seek to try to maintain a sense of normalcy and preparedness. One of those is eating. You know, we eat food to keep our bodies strong, and people can make the case, well, we eat out of fear, because if we don't get enough food and water, well, we'll die. There's the other avenue of protecting your home with security systems, with armaments, you know, with the guns, bullets, and the like. And why do we do that? Well, we do that in part out of fear. And some may say paranoia, but you know what? I'd rather be labeled as paranoid and be well protected in many different ways than to not have that protection and go through life looking over my shoulder. It's always good to be prepared in many different ways, and if fear is the driver of that, well, that's okay. But there is an unhealthy aspect of it too. You have to kind of keep things in balance, and that's where the same kind of methodology can be applied to these precious metals that you see before you here, silver and gold. You know, they have been utilized as money for thousands of years, and in the 20th century especially, their uses, not only in terms of in the financial world, but also in the industrialized world and other aspects of life, everyday life. Gold and especially silver are used to to better our lives. It is an industrialized metal. And so the role as commodities for these metals, especially with how you can buy them as speculative instruments, is more prominent than ever before. In fact, I would dare say that it is because of that speculative aspect of being able to buy silver and in some cases gold in the electronic form is one reason why people are turned off from silver, I believe, but also because people are starting to see it as a commodity. But make no mistake, it is still reacting out of fear. In other words, the metals go up when people are nervous about the economic markets or even the socio-economic situation around the world. But even so, in the West, we're starting to see an increased demand for these precious metals. And why is that? Well, in part because of fear. Fear is a powerful driver of what we do in life. And on that note, one can understand, you know, it is kind of what sells. Fear sells. And it is something that is very powerful. And I believe if you are a stacker of gold and silver, more than likely, if you're honest with yourself, you have been influenced and motivated by fear. I know I have. And but what is the one thing that we like to discuss and talk about? How about not buying out of emotion? That's much easier said than done. But I believe that if we find a way to balance that, then I think there's a successful way that we can be able to apply, and leave emotion not necessarily totally out of the realm of making purchases and motivating decisions to buy, but to sort of ease it back and to make a rational decision based off of a rational concern, because fear can be rational in some cases, but I believe it's got to be based off of what the facts are on the ground as of right now and where things are going or could go. And so when you make a purchase of precious metals and you're seeing the markets move one way or another, that doesn't necessarily mean the markets will continue to move that one way or another. But what we've been seeing here lately, especially with people talking about with different indicators implying that we will see a recession in 2020 or 2021, well, it's happening right now. Now we could recover, or we could flatten that curve of recession, so to speak, as things start to open back up again. But when you have other things that have been going on that the government and has been doing to try to stave off real depression or hurt, that's creating longer, bigger problems down the road, and that leads to what the fear is how long will the dollar last in its present state? That is a real concern for many of us out there, which is one of the most powerful reasons why we accumulate gold and silver. Why? Because we don't know the future of the dollar. In fact, the people that think they do know when it's going to die or going to write the epitaph of this particular currency that we're utilizing, this fiat currency known as the dollar, or your currency if you're in another nation, no one really knows. They have been playing with this, with the viability of these currencies for quite some time, and for all practical purposes have gotten away with many things that most of us thought, they could never sustain this or that or the other. But they have. It has really been a sight to see how the dollar especially has been able to hold on through multiple rounds of quantitative easing and the like. But nonetheless, we become jaded when we don't see the dollar fail, and when we don't see the economy totally crash, or it defies logic and reasoning for most of us when they were doing this, less than 10 years ago. And here we are doing it again in some measure or form, and we're still reeling over what happened less than 10 years ago with what they did with the dollar. So what is this? Should we be buying out of fear? Well, I believe there's a balance to it. I believe that if we accumulate, stripping out as much emotion as possible, but understanding the actual facts on the ground and what we've been doing, and the very fact that the dollar, by its design, since the Federal Reserve Act, and is essentially depreciating every single year by at least 2%. And what we've been doing lately is not going to help matters any. So my advice is to, yes, buy out of concern, but don't let emotion overrule your checkbook, your balance book, your personal finances. Because with every ounce, with every tenth of an ounce that you do buy, you are protecting yourself, as an insurance policy against economic instability. And that is paramount. It doesn't have to be a whole lot. It does not have to, you don't have to stack hundreds and hundreds of ounces of either metal. But I do believe it is paramount to accumulate some gold and silver as a hedge against economic instability. But don't ever feel pressured to buy because of a supposed impending crisis or what have you. We have to keep our own fiscal houses in order, and right now the dollar is strong enough to be able to be utilized. The faith that we have in it continues to reign supreme. It's what we use to pay our bills. It's what we use to buy food. And when we buy food, we are buying out of fear, in a sense, of dying if we don't eat it. Water as well. We have to have water. We have to have food. Substance for life. Sustenance for life. And that is what is keeping us going. I believe monetarily, food and water can be applied with gold and silver as well. To a degree that may not be so apparent right now for most of society that is not really familiar with these metals, but I think you and I get it, and I believe it's about holding on and buying in moderation, because again, I believe these metals are just powerful enough that having even just a little bit of a percentage of your budgets and the like will serve to, I believe, provide that ultimate hedge against economic instability if or when the time comes when there's a dollar reset or a very, very troubling economic situation that could arise through all of what we've been seeing as of late or in the future. Gold and silver are money, and I believe that they will continue to serve that purpose, and we are, I believe, in a better place if we can acquire some of it. But keep our emotions in check and keep our fiscal house in order. And I believe if we do that, we are going to be successful down the road. These are amazing metals. They've stood the test of time. They've survived epochs. They've survived empires. They've survived multiple nations of geopolitical strife and war, famine, and the like. And so this is why we accumulate. So I hope you found this video useful. I'd like to extend a multitude of gratitude to you all for taking the time to watch, and encourage you to please rate, share, comment, and subscribe.